Good morning, bon dia, buenos dias, guten morgen, akwaba, or welcome to the first University of Michigan Health System Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Summit. There are 450 of you who RSVP'd, and I think that almost all of you are here. That's amazing. No matter which language you speak at home, the sentiment is the same. We are thrilled that you are here. I'm David Brown, the Associate Vice President and Associate Dean for Health, Equity, and Inclusion. We have an exciting program ahead of us today. In this room are leaders of our academic medical center, leaders of organizations, student leaders, leaders of teams, leaders of functions, members of diversity, equity, and inclusion teams, and others who support our efforts. By the end of the day, our goal is that you will have a clearer sense of the way forward in this important journey. A clearer sense of the organizational priorities, and a clearer sense of how and where you and your teams can make a difference, and how you may do that. Today's theme is a somewhat well-known quote from one of my favorite sports idols and tennis great, Arthur Ashe, who is also a great humanitarian. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. All we ask today is that you use the time and resources here today to move us forward, so that we can all do what we can to create the type of workplace that works for every one of us. And my team in the Office for Health, Equity, and Inclusion, we like to think of our vision like this. Our academic medical center is a place where everyone feels valued and can thrive. Today we will talk more about how that can happen and what it would take to make that vision a reality. So let's get started. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Mark Schlichtel, the 14th president of the University of Michigan. He's the first physician scientist to lead us, taking the helm in July of 2014. One of his goals is to create a more inclusive campus. Dr. Schlichtel has charged each of the 19 schools and colleges on campus and all of the individual units to come up with diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plans. As many of you know, Dr. Schlichtel has addressed several critical issues during his short tenure here, including bias incidents and making our environment more inclusive. I'm sure you'll all agree he is passionate, thoughtful, and effective driving force behind how this campus will reach greatness in all areas, including diversity and inclusion. Welcome, President Schlichtel.
Good morning, everybody. So thank you very much, David, for the introduction, and Dr. Runge for convening, really, this very large cross-section of our spectacular academic medical center. As I was chatting, before this program started, multiple people were thanking me for coming. I'll tell you, it's really the other way around. The inspiration that I draw personally from seeing a large group such as yourselves come together at early in the morning, give up a busy work day, a busy time of the year, to come here and share with us the process of facing one of the really defining challenges of the current era, and something that will certainly define our future success as a community. It'll define our success as an educational and research institution, our success as a workplace, but perhaps even more importantly, our success in delivering care to the literally millions of people that currently and in the future rely on us as their healthcare provider. It'll also affect future generations of physicians and allied health professionals that pass through the University of Michigan and then spread what they learn here throughout the academy and throughout healthcare in the United States and around the world. So no small task that we face, building a community with a set of shared values that live up to our very highest ideals. As you know, I've been working hard, and many have been working hard across the entire University of Michigan campus, health system, and all our various components to develop a comprehensive strategic plan to not only enhance the diversity of our community, and by diversity I'm talking about diversity of all different types, but also to create an environment that's as fully inclusive as possible, where all of our community members feel a similar stake, feel similarly empowered, feel as if they have a similar opportunity to thrive. We've been approaching this task perhaps a little differently than before or at other places. We've purposefully taken a very bottom-up approach to building our plan. And by that I mean, rather than appointing a large representative committee of the full breadth of the University of Michigan, putting folks in a room for 6 months and then all of a sudden out pops a plan, and now all of you are supposed to make this plan happen, we decided to make the units themselves the owners of the planning process. We're a large and very varied institution, so of course there are going to be different perspectives and different challenges and different opportunities across the breadth of the university, and we're trying to capture that by a very bottoms-up process. Where are the various unit leads for our planning process? Would the unit leads raise their hands? So these are colleagues all around our enterprise, thank you very much, that have stepped up to take local responsibility as the point people as we work together to figure out how we're going to build a working and professional and educational and research community that really lives up to this ideal of equity and inclusion, and to have a workforce, a student body, and a faculty that looks like the public that a great public university is here to serve. I'm very gratified to see the developing sense of community around this process. We've been bringing folks together at events like today, for example. Who can remember the last time this large and broad a swath of leaders across our academic medical enterprise has been together in one room? So this is a remarkable thing. It builds community, and it's actually part of getting us where we need to go. Our dedication to academic excellence at the University of Michigan, our dedication to outstanding patient care and training in the health professions, excellence for the public good is inseparable from our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I 100% believe that we cannot be the outstanding institution that we aspire to be without being diverse and inclusive as a community. When we engage across difference in a community such as ours, learning is continuous. I talk very often to students, particularly undergraduate students. If you think back to when you were all students, how much of the learning that happened during your university or college years were from other classmates? So what we do when we stand up in front of the room and give PowerPoint talks and point to things we're trying to teach students, that's only a fraction of the learning that goes on. A lot of the learning that goes on in an educational community are students learning from one another. And I believe, and there's great data to show, that you're more likely to learn something when you are working alongside and studying alongside people that have a different background than you, a different family and life history, a different culture, a different sense of self and place. That's how we become equitable and inclusive as a society, is building communities of people that are open to one another and learn from one another. That's a big positive outcome of the efforts that we're working on here in the medical center and across the campus. At the same time, we have to be sure that all of our coworkers and colleagues feel as if their voices are heard across the institution and that they have the same opportunity as their fellow workers to thrive here, to achieve their life ambitions professionally and personally. Those of different races and ethnicities, sexual orientations, gender identities, faiths, income levels, political perspectives, points of view, abilities, disabilities, they've got to all feel welcome and free to participate as fully equal members in everything the university has to offer. As a major healthcare provider, a critically important healthcare provider for our region, and in some sense for the nation, the issue of healthcare disparities has to be in our minds. We have to do all we can to live up to the ideal that healthcare is both a human right and a public good, and everybody deserves an equal chance to the outstanding quality of care that the University of Michigan provides. So clearly, we're already spectacular in many ways, but I think we'd all admit that we've got an awful lot of work yet to be done. Our status as a national leader gives us an opportunity that's even more special. If we get it right here at the University of Michigan, everybody watches us, particularly in this area of diversity and inclusion. We've promulgated some of the most famous court cases in our nation's history in this area. We have a National Center for Institutional Diversity that convenes people working on these issues from all around the nation. If we do well, it's not just our community that benefits, it's all of higher education, other academic medical centers, all of U.S. healthcare. So, you know, no pressure, no, don't worry. A public university like ours and a medical center, the one we're privileged to help organize, touches so many people. I remember being amazed when I heard about 2.1 or 2.2 million clinic visits in a year now. So our impact is literally measured in terms of millions of people that you and your colleagues directly and indirectly touch. But we also are iconic in other ways. I'm sure many of you, every once in a while at least, join the 110,000 other people watching football games. That's another way that the public sees us, another way we can model the kind of behaviors, the kind of diverse and inclusive environment that we aspire to spread across the academy and throughout society. The health system, though, is really quite unique. In addition to being educational and doing research as the rest of the campus, you have this enormous opportunity and responsibility to provide health care to our patients. Statewide, our presence and engagement is perhaps unmatched in the healthcare and healthcare leadership space. We've got to serve as a model and an inspiration for the public that we serve. Many of you, I'm sure, followed the events about a week or 10 days ago. Life on the campus was thrown into a bit of tumult where folks decided to exercise their free speech right and write on the diag, the main square in the center of campus, "Stop Islam." Now, the fraction of Muslim students on our campus is quite small in Ann Arbor. It's much higher in Dearborn, for example. But we're talking about a population of students perhaps no more than 1%. Imagine in the current political discourse in the post-9/11 era, with threats of terrorism and the pictures always being identified as Islamic terrorists, how do our fellow citizens who are Muslim feel in this context? And then here they are as students in a large university, busy, dynamic, vibrant place, and their identities are written down almost as a threat or a warning on the main square of campus. So it only takes one individual to write a hateful message in a public place, and then hundreds, if not thousands of people are directly affected, and many thousands of others have to stop and think. This is the kind of work that needs to be done in our society. We need to teach our students, we need to learn from one another, so we can view all individuals as individuals, not as members of different races, ethnicities, political persuasions. And it makes it even harder with the nature of political discourse going on in our nation right now. So I urge you all to take this work that you're doing. I know you are already because you're here at 7:30 in the morning, which I know is not late in the day for medical people, to take this with the utmost seriousness. Recognize that you'll always have my appreciation and my support, and I really look forward to seeing the great ideas that come out of the health systems planning process. And I promise you to be amongst the ideas' best champions. We'll find ways to develop the resources necessary to support your best ideas, and we'll model diversity, equity, and inclusion, not just across the academy, but in healthcare in the United States. So thank you all very much. I'm happy to take a few questions. Please don't be bashful. I'm not going to remember who anybody is anyway. Yep, so Tony Denton's question is, if we think on a 3 to 5 year time horizon, what does success look like? I think that's a challenging question, and I'll tell you why, is that I think our nation is going to be working on the challenges of living up to our ideals for as long as any of us are in the room. I think what it'll look like is individual units that consciously look for ways to build working and teaching and research communities that include all different members of the community that we serve. I think on a 3 to 5 year time frame, we can work towards having an environment where people really are open with one another, are open to learning across difference, are open to supporting their colleagues who are underrepresented in the body as a whole. I think in 3 to 5 years, our workforce in areas of our institution that are less diverse can become more diverse. But I'll tell you something I learned from one of my mentors. I got hired to be provost at Brown by an outstanding university president, a woman named Ruth Simmons, who was the first African-American president in the Ivy League. And Ruth said, Mark, you can't say that you're going to have a 5-year plan and then you can work on something else. We're going to be working together on the challenges of how to build a diverse and inclusive community for as long as we're all working here together at the university and beyond. I'm more optimistic, I tell people, about the demographic aspects of diversity. I think we can do a better job building a diverse, more diverse workforce than we have now. To be honest, the challenges that I think are harder and more serious are ones of inclusion and equity, ones of understanding our implicit biases, learning how to be sufficiently cognizant of them, that we try to make good decisions and treat people fairly and to build a community that really does live up to these ideals of inclusiveness and similar opportunities. I think that's an ongoing challenge because of human cognitive psychology, but I'm a big believer that we can continuously work towards improvement. So the place will be more diverse demographically in 3 to 5 years than it is now, and hopefully we'll be openly engaged in the conversations that are necessary to make us a more inclusive and equitable workplace. Sure, the question is, how is mental health involved in this? Well, you know, we have both workplaces and patients that reflect the full breadth of maladies that affect the population as a whole. Particularly on our undergraduate campus, for example, with 43,000 students in the current era of medication and counseling, many of our students come to university with serious mental illnesses. So we're challenged supporting both students and workers in a workplace by destigmatizing the need to ask for help and providing help so that members of our community, regardless of illness, including psychiatric and psychological challenges, can also have an opportunity to thrive. Was there a different aspect of that question? So, you know, what I'm struck by is the 43,000 students I'm responsible for, and, you know, the tens of thousands of employees of our remarkable health system. You know, we're members of the public just like the patients we treat, and we all know the statistics of the prevalence of psychiatric and psychological disorders in the population. So there are colleagues and coworkers, and we have to find ways to support students and staff through illnesses and challenges they face based on their own health, including mental health. Well, look, you know, thank you all very much. I wish you really a very wonderful and productive day. I encourage you to be open and open-minded with one another. This is the kind of interchange, the kind of opportunity doesn't happen every year at the health system. It's not going to happen every year, but the work that you do will have a half-life of many years. I'm very optimistic and encouraged. So thank you all very much for your help.
Thank you very much. Thank you, President Schlissel. Now I'm pleased to introduce one of my bosses, Dean Marshall Runge. As you know, Marshall joined us about a year ago from the University of North Carolina, where he was executive dean and chair of the UNC Chapel Hill's Department of Medicine and director of their Translational and Clinical Sciences Institute. Marshall will share a bit about leading us on our diversity, equity, and inclusion journey. Dean Runge.
Thank you, David. Thank you in many ways for the kind introduction, but also for all the work you and your team have done. This is an incredible group of leaders across the health system, and it's really a privilege to have a chance to be part of the kickoff for this day and to participate in this day. It's an exciting day. It's a day, though, that I will say is not just exciting, it's a critically important day for us. It's always inspirational to follow Mark Schlissel. He has, as I'm sure you perceived, such a sincere, deep, and abiding commitment to improving our diversity, equity, and inclusion across the campus and with his healthcare background in the health system. What's important for us today, I think, is to remember that we're here today to develop our roadmap for how, and to develop the vision that many of you have been thinking about and many of you have enunciated, to have a truly diverse, equitable, and inclusive environment for us and everyone who works here, for our patients, and for our community. This vision is part of my core values, and I think it's undoubtedly part of all of your core values. So let me start. I just want to pose a couple of questions. The first is, why is it important for us to have a diverse, inclusive environment? Now, on the one hand, that's sort of a no-brainer, as you might say. But let me give you some thoughts. These are my thoughts. But where I think we need to end up at the end of the day is where all of us, all of you and all of us, have our own answers to this. And I'm going to frame all of my comments about healthcare, because that is what we're here for. First of all, this can be a core component of our strategy going forward. We're stronger when we come together in a respectful way. When we have more constructive discourse, conversations, and understanding about how this can be the kind of place that all of us really want to work at, and that will translate into the absolute best care for our patients. That is where we want to be in this area, I believe. And without question, and there are many studies that show this that I'm sure you're all familiar with, when we better understand our patients, we better understand as caregivers what environment they live in, they breathe in, and how they exist, we will provide better health care. That's question one. Now, question two is, how do we get there? Well, you're all leaders in our organization, and a point that I'll make now and in a few moments is we're the leaders, and so we need to establish how we're going to support these efforts broadly. I strongly believe that all efforts, whether it's in a development of a new clinical program or in this extremely important area, are most impactful when they are built from the unit level. But for that to be successful, great leaders have to lead. And I'm looking to all of you to do that so that your unit leaders will understand why this is important, will understand that you support it, and will understand that there'll be difficult decisions to make about how they spend their time, how they spend their effort, and that you're supporting that, and that I'm supporting that, and that all of us are supporting that in this room. And I think the second part of that is, it seems to me we're going to all have to be willing to adapt and refine our efforts as we go forward. I would hope that at the end of the day, an unreasonable hope, and that is we have a roadmap and we just follow our roadmap. But I don't think that's likely to be the case. Now, if it is, that'd be great. But I think more likely will be the case that we'll have directions and we'll follow those directions, but we'll need to refine those as we go forward. I think our bottom lines are two. One is we want to provide the best, absolute best care we can for our patients, not just in their acute episode of health, but through all their health. And that involves a very broad swath of prevention through acute care. And we want to do that in an environment where this is the best place to work, where anyone would love to come to the University of Michigan because they understand this is a diverse, inclusive, and equitable place to work. So let me shift directions a little bit. I want to tell you about my introduction to why this is important. And this is not, the only reason I want to give you this brief example is because I'm sure all of you have had some experience like this that opened your eyes. It opened my eyes. In the 1990s, I was at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. You may or may not know that institution, very diverse institution representing the demographics of that part of Texas, which is about a third Caucasian, about a third Latino, and about a third African American. And I was rounding and we also had a very diverse medical school class and went in to see a Latino patient. I felt pretty good about my Spanish, 12 years of Spanish through high school, through college, high school, elementary school. I wouldn't say I'm bilingual, because I'm certainly not, and I wouldn't even say I'm fluent anymore, but I was pretty fluent at the time. So I was in the habit of asking patients who didn't speak English some questions and trying to understand their heart problems. But it's a teaching environment, so we also had a number of truly bilingual students. And one of the students began speaking with a family, and it was just eye-opening to me that I understood what they were asking, but the questions they were asking were completely different ones than I was asking. Where's your pain? Does it radiate? How long has it been there? I mean, they were asking all these culturally important questions about the environment that the person lived in, and the family members, those same questions. And that was my eye-opening experience. As I said, I think we all have had different experiences like that, but I would ask that as the day goes on, you reflect about what got you to where you are today in your thinking, and how can we use that to develop our plan going forward? So let me close with just a few comments about how can we achieve our goals. And I thought Mark's description of the 3 to 5 year expectation is realistic. I'd like to see us stretch beyond that. Now, maybe we won't accomplish it, but I'd like to see us try. So coming back to you as leaders, this is a major culture change. Many people have commented to me that we're making a lot of changes in the health system, but I'd say this is perhaps the biggest. Yeah, I see a lot of nodding heads. This is the biggest and may well be the most important for our future. And it cannot be accomplished, as many of you are here today, and I think David told me that we might have up to 600 people participating in one way or another in today's events, which is incredible. Some by podcast or webcast or these things I don't understand. But anybody who's participating today, we're not enough. We have, 24,000 employees, students, trainees. It's going to depend on all of us, and it's going to depend on you as leaders figuring out how can we engage our broad community. And I just want to close by saying that you have my support, and you have all of our support. We have a great leader in our Office of Health Equity and Inclusion, and I know that he and his team will be taking many initiatives forward, and I ask that you carry those forward, that you do this for your own passion, and you do it for the benefit of our environment, and you do it for the benefit of our patients. Thank you. I think I was almost on time, so I could take a question or two. David will allow me to have 1 or 2 questions. And if you don't have one now, I will just comment that people seem to understand that I have an email address, and usually are quite willing to bring things to me. And as you've learned, if you've emailed me, I do eventually get back to most emails. So if you have comments or thoughts or things that you think would be helpful to me, please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dean Runge. The agenda today is very full, but we will get through it. Please know that this is just a beginning. This will not be the only opportunity you will have to learn and get your questions answered, or to brainstorm with like-minded individuals. We want to go over today's objectives. Our objectives are to formally commence the diversity, equity, and inclusion work at the Academic Medical Center, to define the vital strategies that will be key to the completion of our diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan, to connect the diversity, equity, and inclusion vital strategies to 1, university priorities, 2, University of Michigan Health System priorities, 3, our human resources strategies, including the connection between employee engagement and a diverse, equitable, and inclusive workplace, 4, to sharpen and refine and focus our prioritization of our diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic planning activities using the vital strategies as a unifying concept and a touch point. We also want you to understand the recast priorities and expectations for the leadership as well as the planning leads moving forward, and to begin the process of developing awareness and competencies related to diversity, equity, and inclusion via a variety of presentations from distinguished guest speakers here today. Let me go over a few logistics. On your tables, there are various colored cards that you can use for question and comments. They are color coded with the activity for the agenda today. Please put those cards in the boxes outside the room. There are also evaluation forms that we hope you will complete before you leave this afternoon. Breaks are scheduled for 9:50, 11:45, and 2:45. And lunch will be a working lunch at 12:10. We will end the day at 4:45 at the latest. Restrooms are out these doors and to the left. There's multiple sets of restrooms. I ask that you please put your phones and pagers on vibrate and do your best to only check your emails during the breaks. Today our speakers are Scott Page, Howard Ross, Mayo Kabersi, and Lynn Wooten. All of them are experts on various aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion. During the breaks, we will share some quotes on the screens around the room. We worked with a group of mid to upper level women leaders here at the University of Michigan Health System, and we encourage our colleagues to submit their personal stories about being different, however they define that. The quotes are taken from these actual stories, which are members of our academic medical center community. We will spend some time talking today about 6 vital strategies to achieve the type of work we all want. Every unit on campus will be working with these common strategies. Why are we here to discuss this topic today? We are here because of excellence. President Slisher's mission is perpetual excellence, and our academic medical center's mission focuses on excellence as well. We want to be the best academic medical center in the world in all 3 areas of our focus: patient care, research, and education. How do we achieve optimal performance excellence? By utilizing our highly gifted and talented workforce to the greatest extent possible, where we leverage everyone's unique skills and experiences. Diversity brings more skills and talents into the workplace, and by fully leveraging the talent, we can create value for those we serve and for each other. However, one cannot fully leverage the talents of a workforce, nor can we attract the best to work and learn here unless we promote an inclusive and safe environment where everyone experiences full engagement in their work and purpose, optimal wellness in all dimensions, and the ability to experience intellectual freedom that ignites innovation and creates transformation. What is needed to create an inclusive and safe environment that allows all of us to flourish? The hallmarks of such an environment includes the characteristics on the bottom of this slide of the 6 vital strategies, including inclusion promoting activities, diversity, equity, inclusion skill building that will enable us to expertly navigate challenging situations and discussions, pathways for effective conflict resolution that support process improvement, career development to ensure everyone's talents are utilized to their fullest, recruitment strategies that tap diverse and different applicant pools, and hiring and selection practices that ensures that we attract and develop outstanding people to help us create maximum value in our organization. Today, we are here to learn more about how to build the bottom part of this pyramid, the what. The strategic objectives you will help us create so that we can build an inclusive environment where talented people are fully engaged in all ways to collectively create organizational value, leading to a high-performing organization that's positioned to meet the challenges of a complex future. These 6 vital strategies will be the focus of our fishbowl discussion as well. Now, we will hear our first story from a member of the academic medical center community.
Sexism is so rampant here, and it needs to stop. I've been tasked with cleaning faculty offices, crawling under their desks to work on their computers, getting their lunch, washing their dirty cups and plates, even getting their oil changed and babysitting their children. I have a college degree, and my position requires one. I don't think if I was a man, I'd be asked to babysit children. I believe women are forced into traditional roles of mother, caretaker, and maid without any thought by the faculty, both male and female. Oddly, non-white faculty members don't ask me to do these things. Go figure.
We'll be hearing similar stories throughout today. We also have an opportunity to reflect on these stories afterwards as well.